Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Hollister Planning Commission on 8/28/2025. The meeting is now called to order, and it is 6:05. Want to welcome everyone and then remind our commissioners to turn their mic on so that we can hear everyone. And also welcome our new commissioners. Welcome. And staff, can we have roll call?
Yes. Vice Chair Carla Torres de Luna,
Here?
Commissioner Damian Perez,
Here.
Commissioner Julio Rodriguez,
Present.
Commissioner Peter Hernandez.
Here.
Chair Stephen Belong does not seem to be here today.
And then can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and who would like to lead us?
I can leave.
Thank you.
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item. This is public comment on the agenda that's not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to staff before speaking. When the commission secretary calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the commission. If you're joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you're joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any names?
We do not have any speaker cards.
Okay, thank you. Next item is our consent items. Do we have any questions from the commission on the items on the consent agenda, or are there any items that the commission would like to pull for further discussion?
Madam Chair, my only thought is I wasn't here for the obviously June 26th meeting, so it's hard for me to agree to approve, but I would imagine you might have a majority. Yeah, and on the non-conforming, I would like a really quick explanation on that project. So if I can pull 6.2.
6.2? Okay. And anyone else? Other comments or any other items?
For the commission, sorry.
Is there, so do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
We did just get an email about 5 minutes to 6 for item 6.2, a written comment from Alex Sawak. So we will make sure copies of that are appended to the agenda and provided to the commission following the meeting.
Okay. So when will we get those?
You did receive them by email,
okay.
but you also probably didn't get it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And so now that we pulled 6.2, is there, help me procedurally, do we do a motion to approve the agenda?
Yeah, you'll still do a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is now just the minutes.
Okay.
And then, and then you'll treat 6.2 like a business item,
Okay.
where you'll hear staff report, take public comment, questions, and discussion and vote.
Okay. And where would we put that one?
Just right after the consent.
Right after?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second.
Well, I think we need a motion first.
A motion.
You make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt consent agenda 6.2.
6.1.
6.1.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Any abstentions? So we had Was yours, okay, we're good. So then now, we can move to 6.2.
Yes, thank you. So this item is pulling back from the June 28th discussion of the Planning Commission regarding an appeal that was filed for a fence extension application that was denied by the engineering department on Carriage Road. And this item, I do not have my staff report. This item is, as the at the June meeting, staff provided a recommendation and a resolution for denial of the project. During the public hearing and following the public hearing, the Planning Commission elected to approve the appeal, and they made findings in your motion, and staff indicated that we would draft those findings as we understood and heard them, but before we got the resolution finalized and signed, we would bring those findings as we have written them based on your verbal motion back to you. So this item is just to administratively confirm that the language we drafted is in fact how you understood the motion to be of the commission. And then I would say, because we understand that we have 2 new commissioners, we do need 3 votes to just affirmatively confirm, but I think we could discuss, and if there were any concerns with the language, staff can make those changes before we sign the resolution.
Are there questions or comments?
So where in the whereases are these findings updated?
So the findings are in the attached resolution that was attached to the staff report.
Okay, maybe that's where I didn't find it. It was the first
Yeah, so
document.
staff has drafted resolution 2025-16, which indicates the whereases of the situation that had happened. Most of these are reflected from the previous draft. However, instead of the resolution denying the project, which was drafted by staff, this is a resolution which would approve the project with the finding that the Planning Commission made, which is on page 3 under A.
So this is just to approve an extension of a fence, correct?
So if a fence was built at this property, and then it was cited by code enforcement because the fence was built within, it is a corner lot fence. The city's code requires engineering approval to build a fence taller than 3 feet within the 10-foot setback of the property line on a corner lot. This fence was built without approval of the engineering department. Then they applied for, in response to the code enforcement action, they applied for a request to get approval by the engineering department, but the fence was placed within a public utility easement, and so engineering could not approve the fence where it was already located. They denied that permit request, and then the denial was appealed to the commission, where staff recommended denial of the appeal to uphold staff's decision, but the Planning Commission chose to make a finding specific to this case to allow the fence to be where it was.
If I could add, just to kind of, we reviewed this several months.
Oh, God.
And we did a lot of conversation on this, a lot of dialogue. What we found, and you will both find this very, I think, relevant and interesting. The developer who's the developer of that?
Kuiper Homes.
Kuiper Homes.
Kuiper Homes. So there was misleading information, and correct me if I'm wrong, when the plans were approved by the city, it was not accurate. So number one, right? So right off the gate, the fencing was not correct from the maps that they had to the reality. And we found out because some of the homeowners took pictures.
Oh,
But
wow.
then you all provided aerial footage from years ago, right? That also validated that. So there was that we were like, oh, so there were some mistakes made there by the developer, right? So so we thought, in all fairness for this particular situation, we thought to go ahead and approve this one case.
But there's no safety risk or anything. It's just the
I mean-
higher fence, basically.
The engineer who presented, he
yes.
talked about safety, but I went out there myself. I'm like, I gotta see this, and I didn't think that, but I'm not a engineer, but I don't think there was necessarily like a safety concern.
And I would just add that the decision has already been made. The appeal is already upheld. We're just confirming that the language, because there was no draft with this language, is accurate.
Just
That's
one-
the decision tonight.
So just one final question. So why did you guys not recommend the approval in the first place?
The fence is within the 10-foot setback and within a public utilities easement, which does not meet the code or the engineering standards. So the engineering department.
But there's
did
no
not-
safety risks, is there?
The engineering department determined that the fence did not meet the code requirements, which are based in safety and access to the
That's
utilities
what I was
easement.
wondering. Wow.
The other thing that I think both of you should also be aware of is there are other homeowners where their fences may be questionable. So they brought that up as well, just for your background. I mean, this was all in public, I'm not
Yeah.
telling you anything that's not. But I think, again, knowing that the developer had a responsibility, I think is key for all of us to be aware.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So then procedurally, do we make a motion, ask for if we're going to approve?
First, you'll call for public comment.
Okay.
And then make a motion.
Thank you. Is there public comment on this item?
I'll just restate, just because we did the consent public comment, but there was a written comment email received from Alexander Sawak.
When we get those, we don't read those to the public as long as we?
We do not read them into
Okay.
the record, no.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to,
I think we're confirming the
yeah,
language
to
on the.
confirm 6.2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Abstention? Okay, thank you. Next item is Eden Housing, and this is a public hearing. May we have the staff report?
Did you do it, Amber? No. Thank you. It is on, yeah. It's buzzing, but it won't. I'll try in a second. The item before you is an amendment to an approved project. We refer to it as Eden Housing. It's for a 100-unit multifamily apartment complex shown in the blue square on your screen. It's within the West of Fairview specific plan area, which includes a number of single-family residences. It includes some cluster lots for KB that are almost completed. And most of the single-family is done in the area. There is phase 3, which is the final phase of the single-family. That should begin soon. The subject site is, again, part of the West of Fairview specific plan, and there is a development agreement in place. And both the specific plan and the development agreement call for 100 affordable units to be constructed in that location. The applicant received prior approval from the Planning Commission for the multifamily project received approval of the multifamily project, including a density bonus, which was for reduced setbacks. Since then, the applicant has applied for an amendment to the approved architecture, so there's modifications to the overall design, has increased the number of compact parking spaces, and has increased the total landscape area. There are no changes to the setback, lot coverage, or overall layout of the project. And the reason this is back before you is because our code requires that any amendment to an approved site and architectural review requires Planning Commission review approval if it is visible from the public right-of-way, and this will be visible. So the overall design of the project has been modified. The roof pitch has been significantly modified. It went from a relatively flat roof to a pitched roof that you see above. We have changes in the articulation of the site. So there is a different articulation. There's more articulation. This is a rendering of what you would see from Avenida Cesar Chavez in Hibiscus, because when you look at the elevations, it's a little bit harder to see all the detailing on the building, but the detailing is better shown on this. And then the next slide that Amber will get for me, thank you, is the front elevation. And again, it's a little bit harder to see, but you can see the full elevation of that street, which on this elevation, Hibiscus Drive, includes their community building, which is located in the center. And then on Mimosa Street, which is their rear elevation, again, you can see again the different articulations in the building, the varying heights, and so forth. But it is a change from the approved design. With regards to parking, the proposed project will have 192 parking stalls, which is 40 more spaces than they are required. That does not change from the approved project. They are, however, proposing to increase the number of compact stalls so that 29% of the total parking stalls will be compact, and that is lower than what the municipal code limits, which is 40%. And by increasing the number of compact stalls, they can actually increase the landscape area, so there'll be less paving on the site. This project was reviewed under the prior environmental impact report and the supplemental impact report for west of Fairview. Both of those documents were certified by the City Council, and any mitigation measures that are applicable to the site will continue to apply to this project once construction begins. The proposed project meets the requirements of the general plan, the municipal code, and the West of Fairview specific plan. The Housing Accountability Act requires approval of housing projects that comply with the municipal code, general plan, and any other applicable plans. The Housing Accountability Act limits discretionary review of design of residential projects unless there are objective design standards with which the city does not have right now. So we have to review it against the policies that we have in the general plan and the municipal code. And then in this case, there is a specific plan, and it does comply with all those policies. So staff is recommending approval of the project.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
So one of the amendments, just want to clarify, does pertain to parking, correct?
It increases the number of compact spaces, yes.
Okay, so when we say increases the number of compact spaces, that also increases the number of spaces overall as well?
No, they increased the percentage overall, so they took away some regular parking spaces and switched them to compact, so it's a smaller area. And by changing that, let's say land or the space necessary on a site plan for the wider and longer space, they reduced it, and then that reducing decreases the paving area in the site.
Okay, got it. So I interpreted that as like, for example, we have a pizza, right? We're not increasing the number of slices, we're actually decreasing the size of the actual pizza.
Yeah, you're going
correct?
from like a large to a medium.
Okay. I have some issues with the parking requirements. I understand like there's no such thing as free parking, but that may pertain to San Francisco, San Jose. You have transit oriented development. You have other ways of transportation. I think in San Benito County, because I've heard this argument that poor people they don't drive because they can't afford a car. I don't find those studies very convincing, at least within our county. So that does worry me. And I just want full disclosure. I do live on Sausalito. So this project is right by my house. I can tell you right now, about 10 years ago in high school, that the number of street parking has decreased because, I'll be transparent, I still live at home so I have a car. So, okay, that's me and my sister, that's 2 extra cars. So that pattern I think has repeated itself within that subdivision because there has been a increase in off street parking. So the same case is also going to happen here, where you're going to have a couple families living in these apartments. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, when we say affordable, that's based off of the HUD's definition of affordability, correct? And what is the current area median income of San Benito County?
At least in 2024, and I was just speaking with our housing programs manager the other day, and she indicated that it did not change, but I haven't looked at the 2025 numbers, but it was $140,200 for a family of 4.
Okay, so about $140,000. So if you really think about it, these aren't. I mean, you still have to be making a lot of money to be within that threshold, or like. I guess what I'm trying to paint for the public as well is, I think a lot of people think, affordable housing is going to be, people making, not a lot of money, but people still can be making a lot of money, and that's the part that worries me, is you have. You're going to have multi-generational people living in these apartments, and then we want to decrease the parking.
So if I can, we're not decreasing the total number of parking. So the original project was 192 stalls, which is 40 stalls more than the code requires. The current project is 192 stalls, which is 40 more than is required.
They're smaller.
You're just switching the size of the parking spaces, which does meet our code. So it meets our code, which says no more than 40% of a parking lot can be designated to compact stalls. The reason we don't allow 100% is because not everyone, drives a small car. There are still bigger cars in this world.
Especially in our county.
We know there are bigger cars everywhere. It kind of doesn't matter where you go. But we limit it to 40%. They're at 29%. They're well under that. And then again, they exceed the parking requirement by 40 stalls.
That would make it around 2 stalls per unit, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 stalls per unit.
Well, it's 100
100,
units.
so yeah, it's almost 2 stalls per unit, because you
So-
have a
and
mix.
there's-
You have a mix of bedroom
And
sizes.
the so the average square footage of the property, of the units?
I don't know off the top of my head. Eden probably knows it more off the top of their head, but we don't go by unit size of square footage. We go by number of bedrooms in our municipal code. And it's important to note, they exceed the requirements of the municipal code for parking.
So what is the municipal code requirement? How many rooms?
It's,
I believe it is 1.5 parking spaces per 0 to 1 bedroom, and then, or 0 to 2 bedroom, and then for 3+ bedrooms, it's 2 parking spaces per, and for multifamily, there is a guest parking requirement for 1 space for every 4 units. Although, because this is an affordable project with a density bonus, there is a reduction on, I believe, the 2 bedrooms becomes 1.5, and then 1 bedroom becomes 1. So, but either way, as Erica mentioned, this project is in excess of the required parking that's been calculated for it.
If I may, what is the process? The reason why I guess I like having a bigger space is because then if let's just say they need to restripe some of these spots to be more compact, at least you have the space. So is there a process? So let's just say they keep it the way it is. Push comes to shove, okay, we're going to need more parking spots. Do they have to apply that through the city that says, hey, we can actually increase the parking by making some of these compact? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is, once you change something, structurally, like with pavement, things like that, you therefore limit what you can do in the future because it becomes cost prohibitive to then change it. I don't know if that makes sense. That's why I did my pizza analogy.
I mean, I kind of think I understand where you're going. If they were to change it in the future, they would have to go through the city for any changes that they wanted to do. But again, they meet the code, and the Housing Accountability Act is very specific on how you can deny a project. And this is not a reason we can deny it. Now, if in the future they came to me and said, Erica, I would like to restripe my entire parking lot and make it 100% compact, we would say we are going to deny your permit because you do not meet the requirements of our code. We limit it at 40%. If anyone says, I have a parking lot and I want to make my parking lot bigger, and I don't know what they might want to do, they have to come through planning and engineering, and we're going to review their request. And that's for anyone, because I don't know, someone could come in and say, I have all this landscaping and I would love to pave over it and just create one big, beautiful parking lot. And then they won't meet the code for landscaping. So we're going to review any of those types of requests for compliance with the municipal code, both for residential, commercial, industrial, whatever the case may be.
I think I also have a question, unless you have one. I'll go. I think with the parking, and I don't think I saw a picture of the diagram, but I'm just thinking to your point as well, ADA compliance, and then also I just, it might already be, but just I want to make sure that we're following that and that we have enough space to have large vans for, education or senior nutrition or even Amazon, right? Like delivery trucks or whatever's needed. Is there?
So they actually have an area in the front as part of the initial review of the project. The Transit Authority asked for an area for buses to pull out, so we have that. So it can be used for anything, actually. And then within the site for ADA compliance, we do an initial check for the planning review, and then because by the time someone builds, the building code has probably changed or the laws have changed. So at building, so when they come in for their building and grading permits, we are again checking for ADA compliance, and it's not planning at that point, it's the experts that are checking to make sure they comply.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I do. So the Housing Accountability Act, I spoke to Eva. That's SB 9, correct?
No.
No.
SB 9 is the 2-unit development. The Housing Accountability Act is its own act.
Oh, it's specific to, is this the one specific to, I guess I confused the two, CEQA?
No. So the Housing Accountability Act is specific to the development of residential projects in the state of California, and it's for any residential development. And so the Housing Accountability Act seeks to prohibit cities from denying residential projects that comply with the municipal code or general plan, because there have been cities that have denied it. As part of that, where cities used to be able to negotiate design with a developer or other design requirements that are not codified, that is now longer, we're not allowed to do that. We can only review a design against objective standards, which this city does not have yet.
And it has to do with mitigating impacts, correct?
No, it has to do with this state wants you to approve housing within the state of California, and they seek to prohibit you or the city council from denying a project that complies with the municipal code or general plan.
Okay, well, I'm reading here, it says unmitigable adverse impact on public health and safety, and the project is not consistent with objective standards.
So objective standards are those standards within the municipal code. So for example, it meets the requirements for parking, exceeds the requirements for parking. The setbacks were waived under the density bonus, so you cannot hold them up for the density bonus. You could deny a project that came in, and let's say it is a single-family residential project, and they are proposing, it's land designated for single-family residential, and someone comes in and says, I don't care that it's single-family residential in your general plan, I want to build 500 apartments. You can deny it for that. It doesn't meet the general plan. That's an objective standard. The general plan will say, in this designation, you can only do X, and this is the density. And so if someone came in and did not meet that, you can deny a project for that. You could also deny a project if the fire marshal determines that the project doesn't meet fire code. So maybe it's a very large project and there's only one way in and one way out, and the fire marshal says, I cannot adequately serve this project in a high fire hazard area because I need 2 exits per fire code. You could deny it for that. So those are the reasons you can deny a project. It can't be because I don't like the look of it. It can't be because, even though the code says, whatever the code may say, I just disagree with the code, and so I'm going to deny the project. Those are not reasons to deny a residential project in the state of California.
And here's where I'm getting with that question. I appreciate those answers. What is the affordability rate that is considered with this project? Like it's considered affordable, right?
It is a 100% affordable project,
So
yes.
there's a measurement of what is considered affordable. What is it?
So they are within the low income category, and so their rents, they also have and Eden can speak better to it because they also have, while they maintain the low income category, they are also doing, I believe, farm worker housing. They got some funding for that. But with the density bonus, when you select an income category, be it very low or low, let's say in this case, because it's an apartment project, you have to follow the income category every year when renting out the units, and then the rent is restricted. The state has a formula that we then follow, and it includes your rent plus utilities within that maximum amount, and that is what people will pay. So every year it gets
So what is it now, though, is my question.
I forget what it is.
So that 140, 200 is based on a family of 4. That's the median income. And then the way that it's calculated is it's adjusted both for the level of affordability is a percentage of that median, and then the household size itself. So it's not that every household is making less than or equal to 140, 200. It's that, if it's a household of 8, they can make a little bit more. If it's a household of 1, they can make a significant amount less. And then depending on if the unit is very low income restricted or low income restricted or moderate income restricted, it's a percentage based on that median
So it's
calculation.
based off of the applicant?
The
Correct.
applicant's income.
Is the applicant here to do a presentation?
They are here. They have a presentation,
Okay.
and Eden can speak more to their
Yeah,
how
would
they
be
vet
good.
people,
Yes.
how they do the rents.
Yes, and the city's involved in that as well. So they'll have a housing agreement that's adopted by the city council, and then they work with our housing programs department to vet applicants, to do the lotteries, to make sure they're qualifying on income, to make sure Eden's renting at the right prices. All of that's done through that housing agreement and through our housing program.
That's under the density bonus that's already approved and in
Yeah.
effect. So all the requirements for restricting, for entering into a housing agreement for a period of 55 years, that's all within a resolution that was previously adopted. So we're not looking at that tonight. We're just looking at the design.
Yes, yeah.
So, and my other question is, what is the average rent of these properties?
It's not been I couldn't be able to tell you that. As Erica mentioned, it's based on it's like 30% of 50% of 60% of the median based on the household size. It's all adjusted based on the size of the unit and based on its specific restriction. So the average rent will vary from unit to unit, and the payment that the applicants will make and who gets qualified will vary from applicant to applicant.
And I appreciate that, but I mean, back to Julio's point, which I think is valid, and this is just the reality, right? I mean, as planning commissioners, it's our job to understand the implications of a project, and the fact that it reduced the actual size of the parking lot, or the size of the stall, I should say, right? It's the same amount of stalls, but it's smaller. Then these are, by default, it's not even just about smaller vehicles. It's it's just a growing trend, and you're seeing it right now because of what's with the economy and the inflationary rate. You're ultimately seeing 3 to 4 families living together, and that means that you're going to have more vehicles. That means you're going to have a lot more impacts. I mean, I'm curious, with this, did we especially considering it's a public hearing, did we do any advise, did we notify the neighbors of this project and make sure that they understood that the potential impacts?
So,
I guess I just,
sorry.
I just want to make it clear that this project's approved. Like, the project is approved, so all that you're considering tonight is the change to the parking and the change to the design that Erica showed you, so the roof pitch and those elements. So those are the only 2 things that you're considering and approving.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, regardless, I have a vote, right? And it's either a yes or a no. And
I have a right to say no. And my point is, whether I decide to approve it or not is all dependent upon the impacts, because I'm held accountable for my vote. And if that vote means these impacts are going to be negative to the property surrounding that, then I by default am going to be held accountable by the public for my decision to approve it, regardless if it's already pre-approved before I even sat on this commission.
So, yes, a notice went out to all the neighbors within 300 feet. So everyone was notified around, all the property owners were notified around it. I don't know if there's anyone here tonight. I don't think so, but
When was that?
it goes out 10 days before as required by state law. It's also published in the newspaper. It's also on our agenda, and then our agenda gets published online. But again, I caution you, because if a project meets the requirements of the municipal code, the state has very specific what we need to do. And this project exceeds the required number of parking spaces, and it's less than the maximum number of compact spaces we limit people at. So it's well within our code. So any residential project complies with our code. This one exceeds our requirements.
Are we okay to have the applicant, and then maybe we could do more
One more
questions?
comment, though.
Okay, go ahead.
The perimeter of the property, they have all 4 sites, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not Cesar Chavez, but they have the other sites, right?
Yeah, they have one sound wall and then the other 3 sides.
And
yes.
are those parking spots? I know they're street parking,
We
but
do not count street parking towards their parking requirement.
but
So
are they able to park cars there, or they're like
anyone
not
can
enough
park.
space?
Anyone can park on the street, but when you are building any residential project, so multifamily, for example, you have to provide the number of stalls required by our code within your project site. So it's on their surface parking. We're not counting anything around it.
I see.
Can I ask one clarifying question, City Attorney? Are we allowed to piecemeal this? So if we agree with, say, everything else, but the parking does become a point of like concern or contention, that we say this is just something that we're not going to accept? Is that a possibility, or is this kind of like a all or nothing?
You can do that, but what I will tell you is that the parking is approved. So there are 192 stalls approved. So all that you're doing tonight is you're saying, yes, they can still have 192, but they can have a certain number that are smaller. So if you don't approve it, then they're just still going to have 192 parking spaces, just configured differently with less landscaping.
Okay.
I could also point out that they still have one density bonus incentive, and they can request an incentive for the compact spaces.
So in other words, they could just say they use a density bonus, and then we lose even more parking. That's what you're essentially saying.
They could take
They
40
could.
spaces away from this project, and it would still meet the
Yeah.
city's requirements for parking.
Oh.
So they're being benevolent or generous. At this point.
Correct.
But if you denied the parking, they could come forward with a density bonus, and then there's nothing
have
you
even
can
less
say.
say than you have.
Yeah.
Then the state of California owns that decision at that point, right?
No,
They're the ones
so
that
if
applied
they-
the Housing Affordability Act.
If they came forward, if you denied the number of compact spaces, and they came forward with a plan tomorrow and said, we would like our last incentive, it will get approved, and then at that point, they could change it to anything they want.
I mean, I could see the benefit in shrinking the size of the lot, right? It's cheaper, right? Affordable housing by default, which we don't even know exactly what that even means. Affordable is just a relative term right now, because I'm
Yep.
not even given what is the average cost of each, each unit, or average rental cost. So I don't even know what that even means, affordable.
But we can't focus on affordable. The affordability of the project has already been approved. We've approved it under the specifications of their density bonus. Here tonight, we're just looking at design and the reconfiguration of the parking lot.
Well, what I'm hearing is you want me to forego the impacts. You want me to just.
But the
The
municipal
impacts
code
have been
says there's
I
no
understand
impact.
that. Yeah, it's just, you're saying rubber stamp what's already been approved. Technically speaking, it's just procedural what you're doing, or, right, what they're considering as ministerial.
In a way, yes. This
But
is
it
just
flies in the
procedural.
conflict of the reality that we have a vote.
You do have a vote. I'm just giving you the reality. The reality is if you deny the parking, they will likely come back with their last density bonus and ask staff to just approve it as is, and it could change further. The other unfortunate likelihood would be that they would contact HCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, and they would issue a letter to us and tell us to approve it
Yeah.
and potentially fine us.
Who's
I'm-
us?
The city.
The
The
city.
city.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love for them to maybe come and talk to us about this conversation. I think it's important. The public should know the impacts.
So to
I'm
be
seeing
clear,
impacts.
where this change that's being approved tonight or up for approval, it's just, there's gonna be more green space available because they're gonna reduce some normal sized
Yes.
parking spots to
Yes.
compact.
Which
But it's the
is,
same number overall.
yes, which will reduce the amount of paving in the area, which will reduce the heat effect and will give you more landscaping and more greenery, which is always a benefit too.
Can we ask the applicant questions, or if you're
That's what I
ready?
was, I want us to, yeah,
Yeah.
but I wanted to see if we can have the applicant present and then we can continue. Is that okay with everyone?
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so well, do we do the public hearing or? the
Yes,
app-
please. If you could open the public hearing. and
Okay,
then
I
the
will
applicant.
now open the public hearing at 6:45 PM. And staff, do we have a presentation from the applicant on this item?
All right. Thank you. Hi, good evening. My name is Dixie Bowles. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Eden Housing, representing the ownership entity. Online, I have the project developer, manager, Weijia Song, in case you have specific questions that I can't make up answers to because she's in the day-to-day. And also with us this evening is the architect team, who will be the best party to answer technical questions. We first came to you in 2023 with this property, and this property is part of a much, much larger development, and we were generously given this land by SES Homes to develop and build 100 affordable homes, which were mandated as part of that approval several decades ago. And since that time, we have worked on the design of the project. We've gotten the project approved in terms of the design, and you charged us, along with City Council, to go out and fund it. And we said, we will do that. We have a development agreement signed with the city that specifies the requirements by which we have to produce the housing and at what levels we have. And so really this is a good opportunity to give you an overview of an update of what's been happening. But these homes will be for those earning 30 to 60% of the area median income. We'll also provide a community service room, a recreational area, if you will, plenty of common space, plenty of parking, as we've discussed, much more than what's required by code. And the reason we are back in front of you is because we are really trying to build these homes, and we are very close. We are one letter away from an award with the state agency that closes most of the gap. And we're here in front of you doing the right thing. We're not building a fence where we shouldn't build a fence, following the rules, asking you to help us get over that finish line. And the changes that we are requesting are vital for the feasibility of the project for it to continue. We are ready to issue our tax credit application should this approval go forward. And I would love to give the floor to our architects who will further explain some of the changes. I'd like to invite up Alex.
Hi, Commissioners. Good to see you again. My name is Alex Ewan. I represent Collective Operations Architecture. We've been working on this project with Dixie and Eden for the past 2+ years. We were here when it was entitled in 2023, and here to represent and present some of the new changes. I can also address some of the comments that you might have regarding parking, regarding public space, things like that. So can we go to the next slide, please? I think we can go to slide 3 or so, just to look at stop here actually. So this is the previous proposal. We've made substantial changes to the look of the building, but that's mostly driven out of a need for constructability. We were a little bit over in terms of pricing. As we've mentioned, costs have gone up in the past few years, especially in construction. So we had to go back and revise to make sure that we can make this project feasible and make sure that can be built. That being said, if you please go to the next one. Here you see the new design updates, which we think are well improved in addition to being more feasible and more constructible. As Erica has mentioned, it involves a new modification to the slope of the roof, increased articulation of the buildings, which we think is a really good benefit, especially given now that the entire context has been developed, all those homes around there. Relocation of some of the balconies, but we still maintain all the balconies on all the units, so everybody has access to open space and air. Some changes to the building materials and some changes to the window details as well. Can you please go to the next slide? So here's a view from Cesar Chavez and Hibiscus. This would be probably the main entrance to the building. As you can see, the project now takes on a slightly more articulated massing. Each of these main buildings, there's 5 main residential buildings, is formulated in a way that looks like it's several smaller buildings, which I think is much more in line with the existing scale of the neighborhood. I think this is quite important and very helpful. Next slide, please. Here you see another view from just south at Brighton and Hibiscus. The parking has, I know there's questions about parking. The parking is in the same place. It's just gotten a little bit smaller, and I'll show you the impact of that on the next slide. So originally we always had 192 spaces. We had more large spaces and fewer compact spaces. Now, a regular parking space is 18 feet by 9 feet. A compact space is 16 and a half feet by 8 feet. It's not that much smaller. You can still fit a mid-size SUV. I did it today. You shouldn't have too many issues. But if you look to the right of this image where that shed is, that whole area actually used to be parking in the previous iteration. What we've been able to do by reallocating these compact spaces to regular spaces is actually open that up to be used as a place for children to play, for friends to gather, for anybody to enjoy. Open space that, as Erica mentioned, doesn't increase heat island effect and actually improves it. So I think these changes actually have made a big difference on the design side, much more than the cost side actually. The flat top is not the most expensive part of the project, but I think the value added through the design is actually more important. Next slide, please. Interior to the project, we have these corridors. This has not changed since the previous iteration. What you just see is a slightly different architectural detail. And just one aspect of the project that we think is very important is that these spaces become places for all the residents and maybe some community members to come and enjoy. And because there's 5 buildings, there's going to be 5 of these similar types of courtyards. And we're very excited for what these are going to turn into. And then the final slide. Again, just reinforcing the project is more constructible. We think the design is more streamlined and elegant. The massing is more in line with the existing neighborhood. And we also maintained all the open space and the amenities, including, as Dixie said, a community center, a children's playground, and potentially sports and athletic fields within the project that we think will make this a really nice place to be for the next generation. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have public comments, or do we do public comment first and then discussion?
If you have any questions as the commission for the applicant's team, this would be the time, and then we would go to the other members of the public.
Do we have
Yeah.
questions?
Can you go back to the slide where you had the rent maximums? I think it was slide 2nd or the 3rd.
Could you return to the slide
I think it's the
with
2nd
the
or 3rd slide. Right there. Is the 4th bullet point I want to say. Are those still true, or by the end of the construction you think it'll, I mean, it's hard to predict with the economy, but is that kind of like where it stands as of right now, or are these old numbers, the maximums?
I think 2 days ago, HUD released the 2026 fair market rents. I don't know what the impact is going to be on this area, but I don't believe it's going to have much of an impact is what we're expecting. We're expecting rents that will remain flat, which is very good because they're already extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make the comment first is thank you for the presentation and taking the time. I think the construction revisions sounds like there were cost savings And in my opinion, we actually get a better looking building that fits into the neighborhood. So I want to thank you guys for that. And I just really want to emphasize, and I apologize, my prejudice towards the project is not anything personal. I'm going to go back to the pizza analogy. Yes, a medium pizza, right? You slice it more ways, you can feed more people, right? We go back to, but you're still shrinking the size. My grievance is, like I said, I don't know how the application process works to amending, hey, maybe we need to increase the amount of parking spots. Maybe we can make some of these compact, that it limits the kind of the ability of the property owner or person to then expand it. Now, with that being said, it sounds like there's a lot of tools, density bonus that you guys could utilize in the future. So my question is, it sounds like the need to reduce the amount of parking is because it's a cost. We're going to save some money because the construction costs are too high. I guess I want to know, what is the reason for all of a sudden this change? That I would like more.
Let's see, I'm going to try and be direct and respectful. We're not changing number of parking spaces. We're not going down. We all know that. Correct. We all agree. We're meeting the code of the required percentage of compact spaces. And now I can candidly say to you, why did we come back to you? Because the change, quite frankly, saves us $4.5 million, which means we are now a feasible project.
Okay.
And we can apply for the tax credits. That's just me being very candid in front of you. We have $4.5 million to go to build 100 affordable homes in this community. And the combination of all the changes that we've put in front of you and the enhancements that I hope we brought to the look of the building, which I know I'm happy with the changes, but that's the bottom line. It's things that we can't control. Insurance cost, uncontrollable. Tariff risk, uncontrollable. We have done everything we possibly could and gone and gotten every single dollar from every source we've been able to get, including this planning commission, which made some concessions in 2023 for us as well. So that's really what drove us to come in here.
If tonight I were to give you guys, yay, fine, I'm on board, don't like it, but I do empathize with that, is there the possibility that you guys are still going to go ahead and apply for that density bonus?
No, we wouldn't need that.
I don't know if that's an appropriate question. I just want clarification if that's
I would just clarify they already have a density bonus. They've been given concessions for this project for the density bonus. What they have is additional concessions that they could ask for if they so desired.
Okay.
This approval would be the design that they want, and I won't allow me to speak for you on that matter. But they could very well utilize the density bonus law and the additional concessions that they qualify for based on the affordability they're providing to ask for these changes as well.
right.
It is our intent, if this is approved tonight, to file that application with the state for our tax credits in 2 weeks when it's due. That is our intent, which means we would not reopen a planning commission action and ask for any modifications. We would then be on the clock, so to speak, and risk losing not only all of the funding we've raised, but also the tax credits as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Maybe I can just also clarify one thing too. I just looked it up. The previous parking distribution was 22% compact spaces, and now we're at 29. So we've only gone up by 13 compact spaces. And like I said, they're not too much smaller. What it really allowed us to do was we had a very inefficient drive aisle that had parking only on one side. So we not only eliminate the parking there, but we also eliminate that drive aisle, which was, like I said, quite inefficient.
Thank you. I do have unless you all have another
I
question.
just had, I don't know if, because you guys are developing this project, correct? So it's not necessarily, you guys aren't in charge of how these properties are rented out.
Eden Housing is full service.
Oh,
We do
okay.
property management as well. So we own other communities in the city, and we will own and operate this as well.
Got it. Well, and I guess, well, then my next question is, because I know that with other projects that are considered affordable, they actually had an application process that opened it up not just to San Benito County, but to the region, and really didn't become a benefit to our community, even though it resided in our community. And then the next reality is the impacts are obviously increasing by default because we have increased population with this house from, and basically you're seeing the impacts of folks coming into our community, and our own residents aren't benefiting as much.
I don't have a comment to that.
Yeah, so you don't just limit it to San Benito County, the application process.
Or could
No.
you prioritize to San Benito County?
Yeah, fair housing prohibits not allowing anyone who's qualified to apply for the housing.
Say that again. Not allowing anyone who.
The federal fair housing law states that you have to allow access to an applicant regardless of where they live to any housing. But I know this community has pent up unmet need and is overhoused, and we are really, really active in the community, and we can't wait to go to our people who we know in the community and the farmers markets and the other gathering spaces we do go to and attend to announce the waiting list is open.
So I'm a social worker and I work in Santa Clara County, and I know about your program, and we've had clients who have benefited, right? So normally I'm a more like developers, but but I think in this case, we're talking about helping our community who have needs. We all know it's essential, and I think I've said publicly I'm about slow growth, smart growth as well, but I think the way you are intentional about having green space, about children's space, you've been thoughtful about the parking, the community center. I am really excited about that you mentioned. How big is that?
What's that, 3,000? Let me make it up.
Yeah.
The community room will be about 1,000 square feet. There will also be a space that's shared with Eden Management. That's another 1,000 square feet. And there's about 1,000 square feet in the middle. That's a kind of open atrium that people can gather in.
Wow,
3,000.
awesome. And available to the community at large, or to the
You know what?
I mean, those are program questions. I know,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I don't know if you thought it out, but
We think about how we can offer space for our community members who look for gathering spaces. So we do think about that very intentionally.
thank you. And then I think the other consideration, I think I heard farm worker potential housing. Is that for sure? And if so, with the green space, and I saw the pictures, there were a lot of palm trees, but considering culturally and considering, the national deficit and where things are going, green space is going to be important for all of us. And because these are apartments, they don't have a backyard. Are there areas that you're considering? I know it's a community garden, but is it all palm trees, or can they plant whatever they want, fruits and vegetables? And
I don't know, Vice Chair, if the site programming to that level of detail
Just-
has been completed because we aren't in construction drawings yet.
just something to.
Yeah, but thank you for your consideration, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I'm not actually, I'm very supportive of affordable housing. I know it's not necessarily a very lucrative business, because there's obviously the costs of materials and labor is only going up in inflation. I'm just literally considering the impacts, right, which I think is my duty too. And I mean, I know technically speaking, the median income, correct me if I'm wrong, is, you know, it's including, there's basically locals that are living here and working here, and then there's obviously locals that are living here and working out of county. Those two numbers, my understanding, are vastly different. There's a big disparity between the locals that live here and work here, because our average income is very low, right? I think the higher income earners usually are government workers, whereas, you know, like the tech sector folks that work, or even in trades and stuff in Santa Clara County, are definitely above the $100,000 range. So it's just, I see an opportunity for gentrification by default, right? There's a squeezing out of the lower income folks. They have to move out of our community, and then you ultimately have the negative impacts of a vastly different culture in San Benito County. And so that's why I ask these questions. You know, I want to approve the project, to be honest with you. I really do. I just have concerns, I guess, and that's why I'm asking.
There are no doubt complicated issues, and we're proud to be an owner of several communities in the city of Hollister, and we will continue to be that owner that you have come to rely upon.
Being a property manager for existing similar projects, how do you handle any complaints, if any, about not enough parking or the neighboring single-family homes? Has those incidents come up?
Not to my knowledge, but no different than I would handle my neighbor. You know, go over and have a conversation. If there's an issue, you know, we don't tend to have problems in terms of overparked, underparked, in particularly even in our urban areas, but this isn't an urban area by any means. It flips in and out of USDA rural designation, by the way. It's gone from one year it's rural designation, 1 year it's not. So the community is changing. It is changing.
You need
and
a car to live here.
Yeah.
Just based
Absolutely.
on the community. So I think it's expected for all those units to have at least one
Right.
car. So. And they're not assigned unit parking spaces, or
they will be assigned.
They will be assigned.
Thank you. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your being so candid and direct. I know I appreciate that. And if you saved money to help people, then
Yes.
that's great.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to
Thank you.
present.
Thank you. And staff, do we have any public comments on this item?
Yes, we have 2 speakers online. We can start with Tyrone Party.
Me too.
Tyrone, you can go ahead and unmute, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Tyrone Portia, and I live at 1901 Lantana Drive, less than 150 feet from the proposed ease and housing project of 100 more family units, let alone vehicles and additional individuals. Under CEQA, projects must undergo current studies, and if significant impacts are found, such as traffic, air quality, noise, school capacity, or effects on public services, agencies are required to identify ways to avoid or mitigate those impacts before approval. In our case, we have traffic congestion, school already overcrowded at the edge, and lack of infrastructure upgrades are exactly those kinds of issues that must be evaluated. We who reside in Hollister in the United States of America can tell you today the present infrastructure is presently strained beyond capacity. Third, our schools and public spaces are overcrowded. The nearest school, Sarah Vista School, is stretched beyond capacity for classrooms, recreation, and in the evenings and afternoon, multiple sports competing for limited space every afternoon and evening, adding 100 more units and who knows how many individuals will put an impossible burden on education, transportation, recreation, and safety for all. It's not easy to say, go talk to your neighbor. And let me be clear, I'm not against affordable housing. I'm for responsible growth. And responsible growth means requiring safeguards for American families and their generations to come. An environmental impact report current needs to consider what is the impact of new housing developments that have occurred in this area, and in addition, the impact of putting 100-unit development in a small space. So before this project proceeds, I respectfully request the Planning Commission require a minimum, a current traffic study of the proposed area, and a funded plan for road improvements, proof of coordination with the school district to handle overcrowding, updated impact reports that reflect today's realities, not outdated reports, reconsideration of proposed project based on current community and residential needs. I urge you, do not approve this project in its current form.
Thank you.
Rather, a new project based on responsible growth and community needs.
Thank you, Mr. Tyrone Party, I think was his. Do we have another public comment?
Yes, we have also online Alicia Party. Oh, not there anymore. We have in person Mr. Joseph Postigo. Hope I didn't see.
Welcome.
Forgive me, I'm not much of a public speaker. But as you can see, I have an Eden shirt on, but I'm here as part of the public because I was born and raised here, went to school here, deal with the community, donated a lot of time to all the San Benito County boards of directors and nonprofits and so. And where I grew up, I'm on Line Street, and I grew up there when it was apricot orchard and walnut orchard. And we took it out and did some tomato farming, and there were apartments put next to us, and the housing went up, and there was some development all around us, and now instead of being country, we're in the city. At least I still am. And I get along with my neighbors and with the people at the apartments, and I can't speak specifically for the guidelines and so forth. We're here about the parking, really, but it's gotten into a little bit of, above that. But I just want to say, I've been on the Eden Board of Directors based in Hayward. I've given a lot of time and a lot of travel to promote affordable housing in our community. I call it the South 40, San Benito, Monterey, and Santa Cruz. And the affordable housing it's not for people that have absolutely no money. It's people that make a lower income, that deserve a better break and a home and a clean place to live. And I was with South County Housing for over 10 years, and we did a lot of projects in the area, and Eden took over, and I got on the board to make sure that it was run correctly. And let me tell you, these places, I walk through these places, and I go, man, I wish I could live here. But I make just a little bit more than is required. And I just want to say, I believe the extra parking was a good idea. Landscaping is always a plus, and that's what we're here for. But beyond that, they are safe, clean, healthy communities. The services that Eden provides and the staffing and so forth, they make it a community. And each one of those units, I meet people from there, and it's not, it doesn't just become a place to stay. It becomes their home. I mean, we supply scholarships, run programs for the kids, computer stuff for seniors, and we try and make it the safest place and the best looking places too, and we keep them up. And they are a positive for our community. As far as the parking, there's parking on the street. Is there bike parking over there, bicycle? Yeah, I went to one and they had, you can secure place to put your parking or your bike. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I'm
you.
supportive of it. I hope you guys are too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have another.
We do not have any more public speakers.
Thank you. We will go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:15. Is there further discussion from the commission on this item?
I would just like to say one few things to the applicant. First off, I think some of the comment, or one of the comments, is just kind of indicative of, I think, the sentiment of growth overall. It's very evident that we haven't the infrastructure, and with that being said, just this project so far, I mean, other than the parking, I think, frankly, you guys have a great degree of latitude in terms of tools and things you guys at your disposal. I think you guys did, in good faith, really try to make this project a good project. I do see that. We absolutely do need affordable housing. I'm not going to go into nuances of who can buy, who will buy, but the reality is we do need affordable housing, and I do hope that the residents of our community will benefit and can get into these houses. And thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I just had one final concern, and then, I guess we'll probably be ready to vote. The gentleman that spoke right now, he mentioned that we didn't notice properly. So I don't know what notification was given, the date sent. I know it's supposed to be within a certain time frame.
I can address that, Commissioner Hernandez. Yes, so we sent the notice to the newspaper, which was published on Friday the 15th. That was timely. However, also on the 15th, we sent the 300-foot notice to the property owners. It did have an incorrect date. It said June 28th. However, that's an early notice, and we noticed it on Monday morning and resent another 300-foot notice to all the same property owners on Monday, the 18th of August, timely within the 10 days. So it was properly noticed, but the speaker was correct. There was a incorrect notice, and then we sent a correction notice within the 10-day time frame.
So it was what, because is it supposed to be 30-day notice or something?
No, it's a 10-day notice
10-day?
requirement. So we do things on Friday before. So the original notice in our normal time frame is on the 15th, which is more than 10 days. But then we noticed on Monday morning that there was an error. And so for all three projects that are on tonight's agenda, we resent a corrected notice
the
that
18th.
changed on the 18th. Yes.
So 10 days prior.
Yes. So the hearing was properly noticed, so the commission does not need to have a concern with holding this hearing tonight. It was properly noticed.
Other questions? I was curious, and I had thought about it, and then I forgot, and the speaker, what did the school district, which would be the Hollister School District, say about, did they provide a letter of support or not support, or did they say anything?
So the original 100 units, which is approved, and it's still
right.
valid, they were notified then. This project has been a project since 1989.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So it has been a long project.
But either way,
But yes, they're aware, and in the state of California, we require the payment of school impact fees, which this project is required to pay, and that is to reduce impacts to schools, and the state has identified that as proper mitigation for school impacts.
yeah. I'm just curious because, I mean, I think there's two of us here who have been on school boards, and that, it is a consideration of traffic and classroom size. And I was just curious if they had said anything. That's all. No? Okay. Any other questions? Or are we ready for a motion?
Just the CEQA study here has the dates of like the latest information as of 2007. We've had a lot of construction since then, but I know per CEQA standards, this still approves this project.
Yes, so we have the first environmental impact report, which properly studied the west of Fairview specific plan. There were some minor modifications, and then we had a supplemental. Those impacts that are studied in that EIR continue to apply to this project because the EIR, as well as the specific plan, assume the development of the project over time. And so it is still valid. Because that project came in when it came in, it is an identified project. So when any other project comes in the area, the surrounding area in the city, there's the baseline information that they have to follow. So that information keeps getting repeated in all the other subsequent CEQA documents so that you build on those impacts. So nothing's in a vacuum. I can't build a project next door to it and ignore that a project was approved and there's the traffic counts for this identified project. I have to take those numbers and then I add them to my project. So so what you do is your project only, your project plus baseline, it's a whole kind of calculation that goes into it, but since this project became a project, since there was an EIR, all those impacts identified now keep blossoming into every other project that we have within the city.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, and I would just add that, because Erica just briefly touched on it, but we do have 2 new commissioners. These 100 multifamily units have been planned and were a part of the larger West of Fairview project. So you'll know that some of the phases are coming online, all the single family homes. So there's the EIR that studied not only these 100 multifamily apartments, but it also studied 579 single family homes that are still under construction today. We're in the phase 2 and phase 3 of that project that's building around. So this site in this location, in the larger new single family homes that are going in, this site has always been 100 multifamily units. And in 2021, the city council amended the development agreement for the West of Fairview, 679 total units, to require this to be 100 affordable apartment units. So since 2021, this has been planned to be 100 affordable units. So they're kind of obligated by the council to have 100 affordable apartments here, and they have been planned since, I believe, 1992 to have 100 apartments as part of this general West of Fairview.
Because of that, that project, the larger project.
Yes, West of Fairview.
West of Fairview, yeah.
And
Yeah.
how many units was that?
679 units.
Because it's supposed to be a percentage, right, of that is supposed to be affordable?
No.
No,
because this
100
project-
apartments are affordable, and there are 33 moderate restricted single-family detached homes that are being built. They're most all built. So you have a total of 133 affordable homes of 679 total homes.
And that was part of the original project?
Part of the original project, yes.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adopt 7.1 Eden Housing SA S&A 2022-16 amendment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No abstentions? We're good? Thank you. Looking forward to seeing our community benefit.
And I will just note for the record that that resolution number is going to be 2025-19.
Next, we have 7.2 zoning ordinance amendment. May we have the staff report?
To give you a little bit of background on why we are here today, this cleanup is part of staff's overall goal to overhaul the existing zoning ordinance. The goal of the overhaul of the zoning ordinance is to eventually bring our zoning ordinance into compliance with state law, to make it easier to read for both staff and the public, make it more user-friendly, and to provide additional regulations or information that can help both guide staff and the public. The proposed phases of the overhaul are phase 1, which were edits to the zoning ordinance for consistency with state law, and those were adopted, but now we're considering phase 1 to be an ongoing because the state keeps changing laws, and so we have to keep amending our zoning ordinance. Phase 2, which is this phase, is edits to the use tables and definitions, and then again, because some state laws have changed, we need to include some amendments to the zoning ordinance for consistency with state law. And then phase 3, which we should hopefully start at your next planning commission meeting, will be an overhaul of the permitting requirements. And then phase 4 would be the remainder of the zoning ordinance, so that will be a big chunk of the zoning ordinance at that time. These draft amendments that are before you were reviewed by the Planning Commission on June 26th, and no changes were requested, but I'm going to go over all the changes in a little bit of more detail than I would normally do because we do have 2 new commissioners. With regards to Chapter 17.32, which is our accessory dwelling units chapter, state law significantly changed starting January 1st, 2025. For the study session, staff had drafted had drafted some amendments to the current chapter. We did receive a letter, I believe the day of or the day before, regarding the draft amendments. We're working with the city attorney on going through that letter and the state law again. So we've removed accessory dwelling units from this cleanup, but then we will bring it back to you at some point, either at the next meeting or a subsequent meeting, to address, to get accessory dwelling units in compliance with state law. With regards to Chapter 17.26, which is our 2-unit developments and urban lot splits, we had to make a minor change, which is just to modify the references to the government code section, because with the 2025 ADU law change, they changed the section of the government code where the ADU law is housed, so we needed to change that reference. With regards to density bonus, the state of California has made a significant number of changes, and those are reflected in the draft ordinance before you. So there are amendments to the required concessions and incentives we must allow. There are amendments to how density is calculated in a mixed-use development. We are required to allow density bonuses for shared housing developments. There are modifications to the definition of student housing developments, and there are now modifications to developments that qualify as senior housing developments. And all of those new changes are codified into the proposed amendments for the density bonus chapter. For religious assembly, churches and places of worship are regulated by the Religious Land Use Protection Act. And in our zoning ordinance, churches and places of worship, which is defined as religious assemblies, must be allowed with the same permitting requirements as similar uses or gathering types. So to comply with that requirement for that threw me off, sorry. Can you go back? Or I can go back now. It works. Sorry. So to comply with the requirements from RLUIPA, we had to amend the use tables so that the permitting requirements are the same. Use table modifications is our largest amendment that we're proposing at this time. Many changes have been made. Most importantly, what we have done is we have reformatted the tables, and we have added definitions to match the uses. And then some of the uses have been compressed, where under one use before we had 10, or we used one category to compress them to make more sense. As far as residential uses go, we did add transitional housing and community care facilities, which are required by state law. Those are now in there. Anything 6 and under is a permitted by right, which follows along with state law. Anything 7 or more requires a conditional use permit. We have added permit requirements for supportive housing as well. And we modified the permit requirements for family daycares, which the state allows family daycares as a permitted use for anything 14 and under. Again, use names were revised, not so much in the residential chapter, but there were a few where we did modify them. And then at the end of this chapter, and then this is the same for most of the chapters, so I won't keep repeating myself. At the end of each use table in the current zoning ordinance, there was a large number of notes. And so someone had to look at the use table and go down to the note. And then sometimes there was more than one note and it got a little confusing. So where we could, we added those notes into the definition. So When they look at their use, let's say their use is, I don't know, car wash, they could go right to the car wash in the definition section, and it will explain what a car wash is and any restrictions that they might have. So we did that across the board. For home office, where the section 1706.020 currently just lists what is a conditionally and permitted use. And so we have modified that so it is a table to match all the other sections because that is much easier to read. For commercial and mixed uses, this saw maybe some of the larger changes, and it mostly relates to the number of uses we had, which again could be found in one. So let's say we had 20 retail uses, which could just be called retail, to make it a little bit easier and not be so long, so people could easily find their use. And then again, everything has their own definition. We changed religious assembly to be allowed with an administrative permit review, which is consistent with state law. We added tasting rooms as a permitted use. We added bail bonds as a use. We added emergency shelters, again required by state law. And then at the beginning of prior to the table in the existing code, there is a very long statement on what the permitting requirements are, and it's a repeat of another chapter. And when you have a note and then a chapter, what happens is one thing gets amended and the other doesn't, and you should really only look in the permitting chapter. So we eliminated that so there's no, let's say, conflicts in the future, and just to make it a little bit cleaner. Again, industrial was slightly amended, same with others, but again, emergency shelters were added. Our biggest change in this chapter is related to commercial recreation. There was a number of different definitions for it before. It was quite confusing. There was health and fitness, there was recreation. They all meant the same thing. So we changed it to commercial recreation, and then there's major, minor, and outdoor, so that it's easy to figure out what you fall between rather than the varying definitions and uses that we had right now. For airport zone, again, within airport zone, there was a number of uses that were actually the same thing, so we compressed those and then made sure there was a definition. For most of the airport uses, there actually was no definition. So we made sure that every use now has the definition. So if someone wants to look at it and they do not want to call staff, they can look at their zoning district, they can see what the use lists are, and then they can look easily at the definitions and see if they fall within it. And then if they, of course, have any other questions, they can call us. But now it makes it easier for anyone to decipher which each of those uses means. Again, open space, park, and public facilities, minorly amended, again, mostly to provide a definition of the uses. The definitions section of the code is in 1702 right now. Staff is proposing to repeal that existing section and create a new chapter. So they're all on their own, and they can be easily found just by looking at the table of contents for the zoning ordinance. So it would be a new chapter. This section was significantly changed in the sense that we have a number of uses in the existing zoning ordinance that do not have a definition. So we added a definition, and we went over those new definitions at the study session. And then the formatting in the current municipal code is inconsistent from page to page. So we made sure there's one consistent formatting for all the definitions. So it gives it a cleaner look, and it's much more easier to read now. So again, from the study session, all those changes that we reviewed before, those are in there. We just reformatted it to make it look to make it easier to read, and then moved it to its own chapter. The only changes we made since the study session were, in some cases, when reformatting it, you could see that it needed a the or an of, and so we added them in there for grammatical correctness. But what you see in the new chapter would be our new definitions chapter, and again, much easier for people to read and find. One minor change we're proposing is an amendment to the project sign notification. Right now, there is all the requirements for signs, and because they're in there, they are very hard for staff to change. It's easier, and most cities do it as you are required to do it, and then staff has a handout on how you have to comply with those requirements. The existing requirements don't require the project to actually put a sign notification up until they're complete. Most projects aren't complete until right before hearing, so it doesn't allow for it doesn't allow for the purpose of the sign. So we're proposing to change it so that it just requires that project notification, and then staff will have the requirements. So anything such as a conditional use permit, tentative map, those projects are going to be required to have a sign notification, and they'll have to do it when staff asks them to put it up. And that'll be a requirement in order to deem them complete, rather than they don't have to do it until they're complete now. In our mixed-use zoning districts, a city currently does not include a requirement for housing to be constructed as part of a project in the mixed-use zoning district. So we could get a commercial project or we could get a residential project, but we don't have anything that requires them to in fact be mixed use in the mixed use zoning district. We have concerns because our regional housing needs allocation, we have identified those mixed use properties as providing the housing numbers that we need. These areas are also more dense, so you see more multifamily, but what we're seeing is people come in with just a commercial project. They don't want to build residential. So we're proposing an amendment to the zoning ordinance to actually require mixed use in a mixed use development. So that would be new for the city. That concludes my very long list of zoning ordinance amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions, but you do have options before you tonight. You could adopt the resolution recommending city council approval of the amendments as there's a draft ordinance included with your resolution. You could make some amendments to that draft ordinance. You could deny if you chose to do so, or you could continue the hearing if you needed some additional information or clarification.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I just had one quick question about the mixed use. So you're saying as of right now, there's mixed use, but there's a great degree of latitude for applicants to say, I'm just going to build commercial space, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So does that mean they also have a great degree of latitude if we were to make the recommended changes, that then someone could just say, we're just going to go ahead and build apartment complexes within, because that would fit within that mixed use?
Yeah, what we're seeing, unfortunately, is we've identified that we're going to build X amount of dwelling units in our mixed-use zoning district. And then what we see is we've identified, let's say, parcel A and parcel B as for mixed use. And then parcel A comes in and they want to be commercial, so they take away those units that we had anticipated. And so that pulls us further away from meeting our arena numbers. And then parcel B might come in, but they're even at the density that they're building at, we're still minus numbers, if that makes sense.
I guess my only concern is then there's also the caveat of that, which would be, then are we going to get just applicants building housing there? It's like, well, the whole point of mixed use is to have mixed use. Is there a way to kind of enforce both? That has to be mixed use, not this.
Yes.
Okay.
So the way we worded it is it has to be mixed use because it is a mixed use district, but for maybe an omission or nobody anticipated that someone would build mixed use in a mixed use. There's no requirement now. And so we find people not building one or the other and not both. And that's really what we want to see. We want to
Absolutely.
Yes. And I would just add a clarifying point as well that the city is in the middle of a general plan update, and part of that general plan is looking at some more objective requirements for commercial, specifically at some of our key intersection points in a mixed use, and making sure that there's some objective standards for commercial and how we're going to incorporate that into housing projects. And then I just will add on the counterpoint that there are some ability under like density bonus law, affordable housing, CEQA, those types of things, where a housing project might qualify to request to remove a commercial requirement. So it's not 100% guarantee, but the goal is to try to get towards mixed use, and also to avoid that no net loss law, where if we keep losing housing sites, we will have to start designating other sites, likely things that are currently commercially designated, for housing to make up for lost housing sites that we claimed in our housing element.
Right. Okay. No, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So the majority of these updates are mainly formatting and just that, and the mixed use development, that's the main one that does have it. You do change the parameters of that.
Yeah,
definition.
the majority of what we're trying to do here is the zoning ordinance currently does not work for staff or the public. It is very hard to read. It is very hard to understand. If I have a use listed in a table and I don't know what that use is supposed to be and there's no definition, it's very difficult for all involved, right? So we're ultimately trying to do, and the ultimate goal of this overhaul is to make the zoning ordinance more user-friendly. So that's the bulk of what you're looking at tonight. We changed a few things, we added some definitions, and then on top of that, we have changes that we have to make that are required by state law, so those are in there. And then the other two really are the project sign notification and then the mixed use. Those are the main, not within those parameters kind of things.
Thank you. Other questions?
So does this mean also that all these definitions are like they're easier to interpret for the person, the applicant,
Yes.
so there's less ambiguity?
That was the whole purpose, is the ambiguity is too hard again. And then again, right now, if there's no definition in it, there's a use, that's very ambiguous, right? So we're trying to clean that up so that I could make the same interpretation that you would make on a use, and that someone in the public can make, because the zoning ordinance is used by all of us, but it's really a tool for the public as well. And so we need to make sure that the zoning ordinance works for all parties involved and doesn't require the city attorney to make an interpretation quite frequently.
Nowhere in here though does it, because most of this is because also you're trying to update according to current state law, right, or changes in state law?
Some of it is. So some of it is in the sense of there are specific amendments to the SB 9, which is the 2 units, and it's really just because for ADUs, the government code section moved. So we're just taking out some numbers and putting in some new numbers. For density bonus, the state has very specific things that they have changed, and those are in here. Whether or not the ordinance has those in there, we still have to follow them, but it's easier when it's in an ordinance because it's easier for staff, it's easier for the public, it's right there, and it's not in the government code, which is very difficult to read, and you have to go throughout it, and it, to me, really makes sense. And then there are uses that we are required to change within our zoning ordinance, so that would be community care facilities, which is let's say a sober living facility, or supportive housing where you're helping, let's say, people that can't live on their own. And so those are required by state law. We are required to have space for emergency shelters. So all of those things. And then again, our religious assemblies, that's a requirement from federal law. So those things we've changed to line up with law. And we are following that now because we're required to do so, but it's not in our code, which again makes it harder for everyone. So this is just, again, well, it should meet law, right? But it's to make it easier for everyone to read and understand.
Well, thank you. I remember when you presented, and so thank you. I appreciate all the work and the cleanup. Can we open the public hearing then at 7:43? And do we have any public comments?
No speakers online and no speakers in the chambers.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:43. Is there any further discussion from the commission on this item? No, and is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt 7.2 zoning ordinance amendment, legislative updates, use and definitive cleanup.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed and abstentions? No. Okay. That one's approved. And the next one, 7.3, pre-zoning for the future annexation of the property located at 1285 McCrae Street. Do we have a staff report?
We do. I'm going to get the clicker. And then also, if I may, Vice Chair, at the beginning of the meeting, I failed to assist you, but I would just like to announce for the public, anyone watching the video, it was noticed at the top of our agenda that the public hearing for conditional use permit 2025-4 for the San Benito Polytechnic Academy is continued to a date certain of September 25th, 2025 for the regular planning commission meeting. So that was in the newspaper. That hearing, it will be continued to that date for the
Thank
public.
you.
All right.
And is that going to be for the approval of the CUP?
Yes, it'll be a public hearing for consideration of a approval for a conditional use permit. Yes. The project needs some more consideration, and so staff's requesting the hearing to be continued. For the commission, so if we continue to a date certain and announce the date through the proper noticing procedures, we do not have to notice again in the newspaper or to the 300-foot notice, and that does have a cost when we pay for those publications. So it's important for this one that it's being continued for all interested and to that September 25th date.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Item 7.3 is the pre-zoning application number 2025-3 for the property located at 1285 McCrae Street, which contains an existing gas station, which is the Toro Petroleum Station. This project, 1285 McCrae Street, it's in our general commercial general plan designation, and it is fully surrounded by the city limits. It's an unincorporated island parcel, fully surrounded by the city limits. It's right at the end of former McCrae and Prospect right-of-way. To the north of it is the brand new Hollister Farm Shopping Center, and to the south, you can see on the screen is 1500. That's your Les Schwab, and we're right by Rancho Middle School, so that to orient the commission. For a little background on where this is coming from, this is a city-initiated annexation request. And where this is coming from is that on October 15th, my slide is wrong, October 15th of 2024, the city council authorized the city manager to enter into an agreement for the sale of adjacent surplus property, which is former right-of-way. You can see on this screen, I've highlighted the adjacent surplus property and then the triangular subject property at 1285. That the city went through the surplus land process to get rid of this right-of-way with the development of Hollister Farms. This right-of-way for the end of McCrae is no longer needed by the city, and so it was put up for sale through that process. And then the city has entered into an agreement with the buyer, who happens to be the neighboring parcel owner who owns the subject property tonight, which is 1285 McCrae. And in the negotiations for the sale and the agreement that the city entered with the buyer, the property owner agreed to annex this island property that's currently not in the city limits. So they will annex their gas station in order to purchase this property from the city. And then as part of the agreement, because the buyer agreed to do that for the city agreed to facilitate this annexation process on their behalf. The city council did authorize the initiation of this pre-zoning application. That's one of the steps required, and I have a slide a little bit later to talk through all of the kind of process for how you propose annexation all the way to the end. But the council authorized this application to proceed on August 18th of this year with Resolution 2025-108. The services for this property it is currently served by city water, so they currently receive city water. It has a septic tank, so it is not on city septic services or sewer services, excuse me. It's important to note that annexation, switching jurisdictions, does not require an immediate connection to the city's sewer services. However, annexation does facilitate a future connection. Future connection would require annexation. So if, for instance, and we do have this happen occasionally, septic tanks expire, they need to be repaired or replaced, they could fail, And because if the nearest connection point is the city's services, they have to go through this lengthy and can be costly annexation process before that service connection can happen. And so what will facilitate a future need to connect, this annexation will kind of preempt that and make that process in the future, if it's needed, easier. And I will say also, not only is it the city's policy, but it's also the region's policy in the effort to protect our groundwater, to get out of septic tanks on smaller properties. I believe the size is 2 acres. So properties that are less than 2 acres, the regional board for our water district, our water board, wants to move out of septic tanks on those smaller properties. So this annexation would facilitate that future connection if it's needed. And then the property will be served by city police and fire. For a little bit of background, I mentioned it on a different item, but the city is in the process of updating our general plan. And on August 4th of 2025, the City Council adopted a resolution for a temporary annexation policy. What this policy does is state that no new annexation or general plan applications will be accepted or processed until the city's general plan update is complete. And the reasoning behind this is that we talked a little bit about CEQA. The environmental report for the city's general plan document is underway, and anytime that you're doing an annexation or general plan amendment for really any property, but we'll talk about this one, that's going to have an impact on that city project, which at this point has cost about $2.5 million. And so the city's council's goals are to complete that project without further delay or impact by a private proposal for annexation. So that's why they adopted this policy. They had a motion in place, and this policy allowed it to be in writing. So it kind of continued what was already happening from a previous motion, but that policy is in place. And in that policy, this annexation was exempted because it's being city initiated based on the sale, and it's also, there's no development proposed. There are no changes to the annexed property. The gas station exists. It will continue to be a gas station. So there's nothing from an environmental impact that will affect the city's general plan document that's being prepared and the analysis being prepared there. And so the city council did find that annexation of this property in particular will not have an effect on the general plan update, and so they allowed it to proceed forward. With regard to the environmental review and the Planning Commission's consideration of this project, and then the council's ultimate consideration of the pre-zone, staff has found that this, because again, there's no development proposed, no modification to the site being proposed, that this pre-zoning application does qualify for a CEQA exemption for existing facilities under section 15301 of the CEQA guidelines. And then just for the Planning Commission's information, the City of Hollister's annexation process first requires a request for initiation of pre-zoning for annexation. So this is something that's unique to the City of Hollister. It's not a mandate of the process, but what this does is it allows applicants to, at a much cheaper cost of the application fee itself, go to the council and say, I would like to do this before I get down a potentially 1 year, 2 year process. It's very expensive. What do you think? Like, do you want to allow me to do this? So we have an initiation and pre-zoning requirement, and then that initiation goes to the council, and by a vote of the council, they authorize the application to be filed and move forward. Then the application is filed and we do the environmental review. Again, this has all been facilitated by staff through this process of the review of the sale. And so now we are at step 4, which is where the Planning Commission considers to make a recommendation to the council based on the project. Then the council would consider the pre-zoning, which is a zoning map amendment. And that is an ordinance, so it requires a first and second reading. And the council would also authorize the application for annexation to be submitted to LAFCO, which is our local agency formation commission. LAFCO is the actual board that approves whether or not the annexation happens or not. So the city council gives the site a zoning designation and says if it was annexed, we'd like this to be general commercial. LAFCO, will you annex the project? And then if LAFCO annexes it, it will be zoned general commercial in the city of Hollister city limits. And then LAFCO does some filing of the completion of the project and the decision, and then ultimately LAFCO files the maps with the State Board of Equalization, who adjust taxes for the property.
Is that the current designation? General commercial?
Yes, so this site is designated in our general plan, general commercial, and the pre-zoning is proposed to be our general commercial zoning district, which is consistent with that. So that's what's being considered tonight, is whether or not to pre-zone to general commercial.
Is that also the, because I don't know exactly what falls in within the scope of general commercial. Would that be just like the Hollister Farms?
Yes, so Hollister Farms, right to the north of it, is also zoned general commercial. Our La Schwab and Walgreens are general commercial. It is a commercial-only zoning designation. A gas station isn't allowed use in that zoning district. It also allows for retail. All of our uses that Erica just talked about in 1708 is our commercial. So all of the uses that are allowed in general commercial, that's what it's for. But yeah, it's essentially, you know, a retail, your Target parking lot, that's general commercial here in the city.
You said Board of oh my gosh.
Yes, the Board of Equalization.
So, being that LAFCO is made up of 2 county board of supervisors, I can just tell you, being a former planning commissioner on the county, that this is not very favorable for the county because of the tax revenue, the gas station. That is one of their very few gas stations. Is there any way, any amendments that we could make on good faith, being that each jurisdiction is kind of a financial crisis, to kind of acknowledge that that is much needed revenue for the county? Is that something that we could recommend to city council? Because
So the city and the county have an adopted tax sharing agreement, which allows for it is an agreement that the Board of Supervisors has adopted and the City of Hollister City Council has adopted, which says for commercial properties, the city will get this much tax revenue, property tax, and the county will get this much property tax. I will also say that LAFCO's mandate is through state law. They are a regional body. They don't serve the City of Hollister or the city. Obviously, we're a small region, you know, politics are politics, but the LAFCO as a regional body has a mandate to preserve agriculture, and one of their mandates is to not create islands. To be straightforward with you, for when this annexation of the Hollister Farms and some of the residential to the east and some of the surrounding lands happened back in, I want to say, like 2009 or something like that. The carve out of this island should not have happened.
Absolutely.
Because it created an island which is against LAFCO's mandate.
Right.
So the correction and annexation of this island is in support not only by the tax sharing agreement that we have, so the county will get their agreed upon fair share of taxes in the future upon the jurisdictional change, but it will also be in alignment with LAFCO's mandate to eliminate islands.
Right, I understand that the whole LAFCO, you know, I've heard this from supervisors, you put your LAFCO hat on. In theory, it's great, but the reality is, my question would be, does this leave, right? I know this tax sharing agreement, I think it's like 70-30. I think the city gets 70, the county gets 30. I don't know the exact nuances.
The majority of the city, I can't remember.
But either way, what I'm trying to set is a precedent of kind of good faith, like annexations, because right now there are islands that exist within the city, and you know, if there's future commercial developments being built, the county's inevitably going to want to keep those islands or those things. So I'm trying to, is there anything that we could do to say, hey, this is what we recommend to city council, a 50-50 tax sharing agreement for this parcel, a variance, I don't know if it's a variance, if it's a development agreement, the exact wording. There's nothing that we can set, no language we could set.
That's a legal question.
Well, I mean, kind of. It is what you've been saying. It would be a recommendation to the city council. So if you as a board decided that you wanted to recommend amending the commercial tax sharing agreement just for this particular parcel, you could recommend that to the city council and they can decide whether or not to do that. And then they and the board of supervisors would have to agree to that different tax sharing agreement just for that particular parcel.
I personally, just seeing the way this county has operated, to me, I mean, there's no county officials here, but to me, it's just, if I was sitting on, because I have sat on the opposite end, I would just be like, yeah, sure, I'm wearing my LAFCO hat, sure, why not? The reality is there's going to be two county supervisors sitting there. They're going to have to answer their constituents about a budget shortfall, and this is surely going to add to that budget shortfall. That I would like to recommend for this particular parcel, because there's only 2 gas stations in San Benito, a 50-50 tax sharing agreement or something that is not going to burdensome the county, because I do live in San Benito County.
I mean,
I don't know.
Is that for us to-
I'm curious of the actual revenue, because it's a small little gas station, and I mean, Toro, I would imagine it's like probably like Dassel's. You have to apply, and I don't know. I'm assuming, but I mean, at the end of the day, the board of supervisors in the city, which I wasn't necessarily favorable to that tax sharing agreement when I sat there, it doesn't matter. They already made their decision.
Right.
So,
and we're City of Hollister.
Yeah.
We're representing.
No,
City of
absolutely.
Hollister.
I'm a representative of the city of Hollister, but there's historically kind of been a bad faith precedence on both municipalities, and I'm trying to set forth kind of a good faith policy or good faith, like, hey, we're trying to amend those relationships going forward. Absolutely, I'm sitting here looking. This is very much favorable to the city, and I'm not denying that. I'm just throwing it out there. Want the board to be aware.
I think if the supervisors were interested in that conversation, they should bring it up. I'm not saying it's a bad decision. The council and the board of supervisors would be the ones to adopt that ultimately. So, yeah, if it's a concern for them, I think they should bring it up. Personally, I think the annexation makes sense to me.
Because today you could add that, but today our task, right, is to approve this pre-zoning for future annexation of this property. That's our.
So if
or to make a recommendation
to make
to
a
the
recommendation
council.
to right.
And
I would like.
It's within the city's sphere of influence, and it's ultimately part of the LAFCO recommendations, which I think also part of the bylaws, if I'm not mistaken, have to do with preserving ag land or rural areas. This is obviously outside of that, so it's almost it's consistent all the way across as far as I'm concerned.
Is there other discussion?
No, that was kind of my concern. It sounds like if I were to put a recommendation or kind of like a discussion topic for taxation, I would not have this board support, or I don't know.
And I think it would be good. I mean, I could just briefly finish up my staff report, and then we could do questions, and then it probably would make much sense to open the public hearing, close it, and then return for more discussion. So just that was my last slide before the recommendation. So I'll just say that the Planning Commission has a few options. Our recommendation as staff is the first, which would be to adopt the draft resolution as written with the findings that are contained, and that would be to recommend the City Council approve the pre-zoning. You could also amend those findings as you see fit, but still recommend approval to the City Council in a different form or with a different recommendation, as well as approval. You could adopt a resolution recommending the City Council deny the pre-zone, or if you'd like some more clarification or information from staff, we could continue the hearing. And we are again recommending approval of the resolution that would recommend the City Council then approve the pre-zoning, and we've provided some findings in a draft resolution for you.
My apologies, we didn't let you finish. And then
It is okay. This was just my
Okay,
process
thank you.
one, and I'm happy to take questions in the middle if we have them.
Do you all want to go ahead and finish the public hearing, and then we can come back to the discussion you were offering? So I will now open the public hearing at 8:04. And do we have any public comments?
We have no speakers in the chambers and no speakers online.
Okay, and we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:04. And now, is there any further discussion from the commission on this item? So if you wanted to.
Yeah, I guess I'll just finish off with this. Is there's historically been an institutional dysfunction within this community, within this county, within this city. And I would just like to kind of, how would I legally, semantically word that? I think you guys can help me, of adding, at least bringing it up to the discussion of the city council, that this is something that has historically been, that this is why we have these islands, that should we talk about a tax sharing agreement, at least for this parcel.
So that would be, if you were to add that, it would be like number 2.
I think it could even be number 1,
It could be
and
number
then
1.
so you're adopting a resolution recommending the council approval with the findings contained and directing staff to inform the commission of this position. And that would be fine with me, and I understand the position. If you would like to make a motion of that sort.
Do anyone else have anything else to say?
I mean,
and I'm ready to make a motion.
My final comments is I appreciate the sentiments from Commissioner Rodriguez, but I think it's a little bit of a can of worms, because ultimately just kind of, if I was sitting on that board, you would have to open up the tax sharing agreement again. That would probably potentially open up new negotiations, new discussions, right? Because if there's other implications with other elements throughout the county, potential growth, commercial development, I think it might get a little bit complicated. I personally believe, informally, you can talk to your city council representative, and let them lead that negotiations. I think personally, as a planning commission, we probably shouldn't get involved in negotiations.
Will this recommendation belabor the process? Will it create more work? I just
Potentially.
want to.
I would say no, it wouldn't. If you would like to make a motion that includes a direction for staff to give this additional information, we're happy to do so, add it into the staff report. We would just take the motion being seconded and then adopt it.
Okay.
So it would just be giving the message is what it sounds like.
It would be recommendation.
Right, but it wouldn't necessarily be like if they don't negotiate, then it's not approved.
And LAVCO is part of the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, I suppose depending on what the pleasure of the commission is, how sternly your recommendation wants to be of, if you do this, we recommend approval. If you don't do this, we don't recommend approval. Then that might be more in the 2, of
Okay.
like kind of changing what your recommendation actually is.
Okay,
But if your
so-
recommendation is kind of approval, but we'd like to tell staff, can you inform them of our discussion as well? That's easy. But neither will belabor the process, just clarification in your motion and an understanding of what the commission wants.
And can I ask again, what prompted this application, this project?
Yes, so this is prompted by the city entering into a sale agreement, and it was the city's council's request to annex this property. So if that informs your decision on that motion, it is being city council initiated of desiring this
Right.
island, likely related to sales tax of a gas station. That probably, we have policies of not wanting to have islands, of annexing our islands. It's also LAFCO's goals, but also I'm sure the council considered the revenue in their desire to negotiate that with the property owner.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the resolution 7.3 with recommending the other municipal entities of possible sales tax loss. I don't know how to. I'm trying to.
So if it's that way, it's different. I mean, just throwing it out.
Okay.
I think what I heard is if she would inform them of our discussion
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But if we're like hard and fast of like they've got to, do this sales tax agreement, then it's like,
We're not policy.
well, we're not. First of all, but second of all, like that's
We can advise on policy, but I don't think, the tax sharing agreement is not even really
That's a separate
policy
item.
per
And
se.
I guess I would just remind you that the next stop is the city council.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they are the ones who will consider your recommendation.
So my recommendation,
and they're the ones that
Okay.
prompted this.
what I'm just saying, I would just like to recommend city council to acknowledge that that the county will be losing money from this annexation. I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense. I think I'm trying to.
That's
I don't
based
think
on
that's-
prior experience or from the information that we received today, that they're gonna lose money.
The county is going to lose money because if we annex this in, the sales tax agreement is 70% for the city, 30% for the county.
But that's not a recommendation from
Yeah.
us.
Well,
Okay, so-
and that tax sharing agreement doesn't change regardless of the annexation. The tax sharing agreement is still in place.
Right, but I'm saying for this particular parcel that we annex in, what I'm trying to articulate is there to be, oh my gosh, what was I trying to say? To be aware of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that way, in good faith, we could annex more properties in the future because we run the risk in the future of trying to annex more properties. The county being like, oh, you know what,
So your motion would be. What is your? So
I guess I'm asking the city attorney, how would I make this motion? How can I try to articulate what I'm
I
trying
mean,
to
it
say?
sounds to me like you would move to adopt the resolution recommending the city council approve the pre-zone with an additional recommendation that the city council consider amending the tax sharing agreement for this particular parcel.
Correct.
that's more number 2, right?
I think
I
it's
think it's
I
still
think
number
it's
one.
kind of number 1 and another recommendation, which is
Right.
also fine.
Okay.
Or number 2, it's okay. So what the motion on the table and is to adopt the draft resolution recommending approval to the council and also make a recommendation as a statement, if you will, to the council that the planning commission recommends the council consider a specific tax sharing agreement for this property and not using the general one.
Is there a second? And if there's not a second,
The motion fails.
then the motion
Right,
fails.
so you can accept a new motion.
Is there another motion? From anyone?
Motion to adopt number 1.
Adopt resolution recommending approval. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
I'm in favor.
Okay, aye. Okay, anyone opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're good. We're approved. Thank you. Let's move on to Planning Commission reports. Does anyone have any reports? Starting, welcoming our 2 new commissioners. Yay. Anything
Thank you.
else? Any other, do you want to say anything?
Oh, no, it's a real pleasure to work with everyone. I'm excited. So, a little background. Went to school for urban planning, San Francisco State. So, happy to be here and happy to help.
Glad you're here. Thank you. I don't have anything.
No, actually, I was hoping that maybe upon the advice of staff is, I would like to see if there's a potential to consider an agenda item to actually go over the process for, the way that basically to help inform our understanding on the permitting, the plan check, engineering, how all that works, the pre-approval process, because, to a certain extent, I've heard plenty. I'm a small business owner, right? So a lot of people know I own Ohana downtown, and I talk to a lot of businesses, and so there's a lot of conversations about the issues with planning, but I can't say that they're right or wrong, right? Because I haven't dealt with that side for 10 years now. So I'd like to get updates. I mean, I know there was an issue with the Panera bread, so even just to inform us as planning commissioners a little bit better and understanding how that plays out, and ultimately, yeah, hopefully help us with our decision-making process in the future.
Thank you. Any other reports? No? Okay, and then do we have, staff, do we have any reports for any planning division reports?
Yes, sorry, just trying to make notes on the motion, so I have it in my notes here. I can definitely work on putting something together, a presentation for the commission on the processes for permits that the commission sees, and then some of the administrative things that you won't see that are processed by staff. We can work on that. And then I know we had a legislative update at the beginning of the year, I think, with the city attorney's office, but it could be good to work on putting that onto a future agenda. Again, I know we've had with the budget that the state adopted, they adopted some new laws that took effect, and then we've obviously had quite a few laws come into effect on January 1st that we talked about before, but it'd be good to bring everybody up to speed. So I think we can work on a couple of items of just background, and we can put it on an agenda that is lighter on the development items, the project items. We could try and put that on an upcoming agenda in the future for
totally
sure.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I know I brought up SB 9 and obviously confused the Housing Affordability Act, but yeah, there's a lot of implications. I mean, technically, even the discussion we had with Eden Housing was part of that, because you know I'm seeing kind of the impacts that technically, even like the gentleman that spoke, one of the public comments, these impacts are the infrastructure impacts, how we're able to mitigate them, right? And what does that mean for these projects to be able to make sure that, and I know you know, my understanding, you can't require a project to mitigate, that's what CEQA does, but now with all of this amendments of the you know, the laws, then it kind of creates a little bit of a muddy mess that we're now trying to figure out how to interpret that and how that applies into our decision making. So yeah, all of that would really be super helpful. Yeah.
I would agree. There has been a lot of confusion in the
Yeah.
community about, so yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can definitely work on putting something together for you. I'll try not to go too in depth, but also in depth. I can talk about. It's a lot. Would it
be a study session, or
we could potentially talk about a study session? I know we're getting to the end of the year, and holidays and things, and just the time to prep. So we'll try and work on what would be the best timing to get this before you guys, but also making sure that we can be, not just throwing something together, but actually something helpful for you all. So we can definitely work on that. And then I was going to give just a brief update. At the last meeting, Chair Belong had asked for some info on the planning commissioner stipend. I did look into that with the city clerk. I know Commissioner Belong is not here tonight, but we could not find any of the adopting documents. So the stipend, as our current commission will know, but our new commissioners, if you didn't know, is $25 a meeting. It would have at some point been adopted by the city council, and to amend that, it would be a city council amendment that they would need to adopt. So that's the only real update on that. I unfortunately wasn't able to find, and neither was the clerks, any real documents to give more than it's $25 is what we know. I think that's my only updates. I would just like to also reiterate and welcome both of our new commissioners to the commission. It's exciting to have 5 commissioners. We have not had a full board of 5 in quite some time. So it's good to have you here. Look forward to working with you. And I may be biased, but I think planning commission is where the real things happen. So it's exciting to have new commissioners on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to get out of here. To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Recording stopped.
officially.